Hey, David here. And if you're thinking about selling your home in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, there is one decision that will either make you or cost you tens of thousands of dollars. And I'm talking about list price because most sellers get it wrong, and I have the data to back that up. Jessica and I just finished analyzing the March 2026 DFW metroplex market data. This is something that we do on a regular basis, and this is real data covering over 23,000 active listings and nearly 7,000 closed sales all across the counties in the DFW area. And what I saw compelled me to make this video. So if you own a home in DFW and you're thinking about selling, stay with me because what I'm about to tell you could literally save you tens of thousands of dollars. So let's get into it. First, let me tell you where the DFW market actually is right now, because there's a big difference between what people think the market is doing versus what the data actually says. I'm going to do a little bit of a data dump here, but stick with me because I promise to paint a clear picture with it. In March 2026, there were 23,415 active listings across DFW. That's up 4.4% from this time last year, so there's a little more competition for sellers. The median sale price was $390,000, which is down 2.5% from March 2025 when it was $400,000. Now, the median days on market is 78 days, which is up 23.8% from just 1 year ago, and the percentage of homes that sold at or above their list price, only 20.5%, down from 22.3% last year. And that number from last year is probably also a bit eye-opening for you, because what we are really seeing here is that for several years now, the majority of listed homes are not selling at or above list price at an increasing rate. Now, if you're a seller hearing those numbers, you might be thinking, okay, the market is softening a little bit, so maybe I should price a little higher to give myself some negotiating room. And that is exactly the thinking that the data says is costing DFW sellers a lot of money. Let me show you what I mean. Here's the single most powerful way I can illustrate what's happening in this market right now. For every 100 finalized listings in DFW in March 2026, meaning homes that either sold, expired, or were canceled, here's how they broke down. 30 out of 100 failed completely. They expired or were canceled without ever selling. According to the data, this is likely due to overpricing, and that's nearly 1 in 3 homes. 40 out of 100 sold, but only after a price reduction. These sellers had to cut their price before buyers would even make an offer. And only 30 out of 100, just 30%, were correctly priced and sold without ever needing a reduction. 70 out of every 100 homes in DFW last month were overpriced. Either they were failed entirely or they had to be reduced before selling. That is not a small problem. That is the dominant experience for sellers in this market right now. And here's where it gets really interesting, because those 3 groups did not have the same outcome, not even close. So let's compare the 2 groups that actually sold correctly priced homes versus the homes that sat on the market before a price reduction, because the difference is actually significant. Okay, so homes that were correctly priced from the start, median days on market was 16 days. They received 99.4% of their original asking price, and many of them had competing offers, and they sold in about 2.5 weeks. Now, let's look at the other group, homes that required a price reduction. Median days on market was 140 days. They received only 90.6% of their original asking price, and they sat on the market for nearly 5 months. And buyers knew they had leverage because a stale listing is a negotiating gift. And that's a difference of 124 days and 8.8 percentage points on the sale price. On a $390,000 home, which is right at the DFW area median, that 8.8% gap equals approximately $34,320. And that's before you factor in carrying costs of 4+ extra months of mortgage payments, taxes, insurance, utilities. What does that add up to? Here's what I'm saying when someone says, let's start high and see what happens. What they're actually effectively saying is, let's plan on being on the market for 140 days, giving up $34,000 in negotiating position, and still hoping someone makes an offer. That's not a strategy. That's a gamble. And in this case, the house actually loses. Now, here's something that I don't think most sellers, even some agents, fully understand. The penalty for overpricing isn't fixed, it's actually compounding over time. The data breaks down the required price reduction by how long the home has actually been on the market. And the pattern is crystal clear. The longer you wait to correct your price, the more you have to reduce it. At 0 to 14 days on market, sellers who reduced only had to cut about 3.9%, roughly $16,000 on the median listing. But by 60 to 74 days, that required reduction had grown to 5.1%, over $21,000. At 90 to 104 days, it's 6.4%, almost $27,000. At 120 to 134 days, it's 7.6%, nearly $32,000. And at 150 to 164 days, it's 8.5%, over $35,000. And for homes that made it past 240 days on the market, that required price reduction was 11.4%, which is nearly $48,000. So think about what this means. Every week you sit on the market at the wrong price, your eventual reduction is actually getting larger, and the market isn't waiting for you. Buyers are watching, and they know exactly how long your home's been sitting. It's right there on every real estate app on their phones, and the home that launched at $450,000 and is now at $425,000 after 6 months, buyers aren't thinking great deal, they're thinking what's wrong with it, and then they offer $410,000. Price reductions don't create urgency, they create skepticism. Now I want to walk you through something that we call the triple loss, because most sellers who overprice their home don't just lose in one way. They lose in 3 ways simultaneously. Loss number 1, the price reduction itself. The median price reduction in DFW right now is 6.9%, and that's approximately $28,911 on the median overpriced listing. That's money that was in your equity and is now in the buyer's pocket. Loss number 2, the post-reduction negotiation. Here's what most people miss. Even after you reduce your price, buyers still negotiate. And overpriced sellers who reduced still only received 90.6% of their original list price. So the price cut didn't stop the negotiation, it just reset the starting point and handed the buyer even more leverage. Loss number 3, seller paid concessions. 60% of all closings in DFW now include seller paid concessions, meaning the seller is also covering some or all of the buyer's closing costs. The median concession is about $8,000. And this rate is actually up from 57.2% just 1 year ago. So let's add that up for a seller who overpriced their home. Price reduction, approximately minus $28,911. Negotiation below the reduced price, additional thousands. Seller concessions, minus $8,000. We're talking about a seller who started out believing they'd net top dollar and ended up giving back $40,000 more compared to what a correctly priced home would have yielded. That's the triple loss, and 70% of DFW sellers experienced some version of it last month. 70%. I want to flag one more category in this data, one that almost never gets talked about. We'll call it the previously listed trap. This is the group of sellers whose homes expired or were canceled, sat off the market for a period of time, and then they were relisted, and that's often with a different agent. But the data on this group is a bit sobering as well, because the median days on market across both listing periods, 175 days. Their sale price as a percentage of original list price, only 89.3%, nearly 6 months on the market. And they still gave up more than 10% of their original price. This is the worst possible outcome, and it almost always starts with the same decision: pricing too high at the beginning, watching the listing go stale, and pulling it off the market, hoping a fresh start fixes the problem. Buyers have long memories. The data follows the property, not just the listing. And in today's market, where buyers are informed and patient, a relisted home carries a story, and buyers read it. Every single day on the market, every price reduction, every canceled listing is visible to every buyer shopping in your area. There is nowhere to hide in this market. The best time to fix a pricing problem is actually before it becomes one. And the only way to do that is to price it right from day one. If you're still with me, good, because now I want to give you some broader context. Because some people might be thinking this: is this just a temporary blip? Is the market going to snap back? Let's just look at the actual numbers. Let's compare where we are today to March 2019, which most people in the industry consider a pretty healthy, balanced market. In 2019, the failed listing rate was 19.6%, but today it's 29.5%. In 2019, the percentage of homes that required a price reduction was 44.2%, but today it's 57.7%. And in 2019, the percentage of sellers paying concessions was 36.8%, but today it's 60%. And in 2019, the median days on market was 40 days. Today, it's 78 days, which is almost double. Every single one of those metrics has moved in the direction that makes overpricing more costly and risky than it has ever been. This simply isn't the 2021 market, and that seems to be a tough thing to accept for a lot of sellers these days. Homes don't sell themselves just because they're listed anymore. The sellers who are winning right now are the ones who respect the market, price correctly from day one, and execute a strong marketing strategy. And the sellers who are struggling, they're the 70 out of 100. So let me bring this home. I'm almost done. If you're thinking about selling your home in DFW, the single most important thing you can do right now is have a serious, data-driven conversation about pricing. What matters is what the current market right now, with current inventory, current buyer demand, and current interest rates, will actually support. That's the conversation we have with every seller we work with. We don't guess. We don't tell people what they want to hear just to get a listing. We research, we analyze, we use real data, like everything I just walked you through today, and we make recommendations that are designed to get you the best possible outcome. Because here's what Jessica and I know for certain. The goal isn't to list your home. The goal is to sell it for the most money in the least amount of time with the least amount of stress. And the data shows, without a shadow of a doubt, that the path to that outcome starts with the right price. If you want to have that conversation, reach out to us. We would love to sit down with you and walk you through what the market looks like specifically for your home and your neighborhood, and help you build a strategy that actually works. The link to reach us is in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and if you found this helpful, please share it with anyone you know who is thinking about selling. This information could genuinely save them tens of thousands of dollars. Reach out to us if you want to discuss pricing your home with real market experts who do real research and make data-driven decisions that are truly effective. I'll see you in the next one.